Hi guys, today's YouTube video is all about change or transition in a relationship. Now, what do I mean by that? In every relationship, we go through different phases or different transitions. So I thought it would be important for us to kind of go through what are some of the different phases that we might go through in a relationship, and then to highlight some questions. What are some things that we can ask one another as we go through these changes? So I know you've all heard the quote, "The only constant is change," and that not only applies to our own life, but it also applies to the relationship. So some of the things to think about is what are the different phases of relationships? And I'm probably not going to list all of them, and maybe they're different and unique for each couple. But to me, there's the new phase of love, there's mature love, there's deciding to have kids or not. There's also, deciding to get married or not, career changes, moves to a new state or just to a new part of the state, retirement, empty nesters, the golden years. There are different ages or phases in every relationship, and I think it's important for couples. You don't have to sit around and talk about it all the time, but I do think it's important for couples to talk about how we talk about when we go through different changes or phases. There's also different, we change throughout time too. So how do we talk about when we're going through our own transformations? A change in identity. If you guys do decide to have kids, like the change of becoming parents, or if you're moving up the ladder in your career or decide to become an entrepreneur, it's how are we changing or seeing the world differently? And so I think we want to come together and start asking each other, how do we move through time together? Dr. John Gottman, he has, I've talked about his Sound Relationship House before, but one of the top levels of the Sound Relationship House is the shared meaning system. And the shared meaning system is really when we make meaning intentional. And, so for example, if you are married, what's the meaning of marriage? What kind of commitment are we bringing into the relationship, and what's that even mean? Even long-term relationships can ask that question. What's the meaning of relationship and commitment to one another? In the shared meaning system, it's also, getting specific on day-to-day, like what's the meaning of dinner time? What's the meaning of being a mom or a dad or a husband or a wife? So those are some of the key components that it's important to ask one another throughout your relationship, because you create a deeper level of understanding of one another, which also creates a strong, intimate connection between one another. And remember, in my other videos, the more we understand one another, the more we're willing to compromise, show empathy towards, and have, a really amazing relationship. So transitions, I think that one of the things I wanted to bring out is, how do we work through transitions? First of all, it's how do we talk about it when it comes up? And you're not going to have a plan for every different phase your relationship goes through, but I think if you have a foundation of how do we come back to talk about when big changes occur, or if I'm going through a change, and creating those couples meetings like I've talked about. Sometimes when you have maybe a shared meaning system conversation, you want to have like a set we're going to come together and we're going to talk about our shared meaning system as we move through into this phase of becoming parents, or maybe we haven't realized our relationship's changed, but all of a sudden it's changed. So how do we come and start to talk about and communicate about maybe some grief and loss associated with an old relation, the old parts of your relationship that are no longer, and also transitioning into a new phase of your relationship. I think some good questions to ask are surrounding what's the meaning of this change or transition for you, or the phase, what's it mean to you? What have been some hopes and dreams that you've had surrounding this new change? How can I best support you? Or in what ways do you need me to show up for you as we move through this change together? And, kind of clearly defining those things for one another, I think would be really important, because what you're really identifying is your version of how you see it. You know, your subjective reality is your reality. You're not saying you have to do it this way, we have to move through time together, you know, in only my way, but you're saying how you see it because you want your partner to understand, and then you also want to understand how your partner sees change or transition as you enter into new phases of the relationship. The other thing is how you're communicating love through these different phases. You know, when you first meet and fall in love, and how you communicate love is very different than maybe you have been married for 50 years. And so it's important to kind of identify, again, how am I different? How's the relationship different? Maybe some needs have changed, and just kind of accepting or coming to terms with different. Different's not bad, it's just different. So the thing I want you to think about is we go through different changes and phases in our lives, and that is okay. There's nothing wrong with change or transition. In a relationship, you want to set aside time to talk about your partner, about the meaning of these different phases and how you're stepping into them, and how you both see the change or the transition. Again, parenthood, empty nesters, retirement, new careers, changes in external relationships, all of those are all about change. And when you have a deep understanding of how you both see the world or see these changes, you can do it together. You move through time together. So, you know, take some time to really think about the different transitions that you've gone through already, and maybe what's the next one coming up, and what are some things that you'd really like your partner to know about these different changes or phases in your relationship right now. Take some time and write it out, and then tell your partner, hey, I'd like to talk to you about some change or this transitions in our relationship. I will put a link below to the Gottman Institute, and there's some good resources for couples. Even if you got the book, The 7 Principles for Making a Marriage Work, he has a whole chapter in there all about your shared meaning system and a guide to how to talk about it. All right, guys, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for weekly updates all about relationships. Have a great day.